In 2020, the squatter Donald Trump withheld military aid from Ukraine to blackmail its president into fabricating dirt on Joe Biden. The House of Representatives impeached Trump for this act, and the Senate acquitted him. In 2021, Trump incited a mob of his sycophantic inbred supporters to attack Congress in hopes of overturning his defeat in the squatterable election. But this act of incitement immediately followed Trump's attempts to mobilize the election officials in Republican states to find votes to reverse in his favor for in his favor the certified to basically favor the certified election outcome. The House of Representatives impeached Trump for this act too. The Senate also seems certain to acquit him again. This pattern has pushed some to despair. Trump repeatedly committed impeachable offenses. The senators of Trump's party repeatedly protected him. Does the impeachment remedy even function anymore? And what can be achieved by undertaking this second trial after the first? Is it not already confirmed that bipartisanship counts for everything and constitutional accountability for nothing? But here's the case against despair. The impeachment remedy is not dead. It remains extraordinarily powerful, and just in ways that are different from those imagined by the authors of the Constitution. There have been 4 presidential impeachment processes since 1787, but none of them have resulted in any removal, but all 4 had seismic political consequences. Andrew Johnson was not removed in 1868, but he was not renominated either, and he failed to get the second term that he wanted. Richard Nixon was not removed in 1974, but he resigned amid an immense scandal. Bill Clinton was not removed in 1998 after getting that blowjob from Monica Lewinsky, but instead Clinton became the first administration since the Reconstruction to gain congressional seats in the 6th year of his term. His chief opponent, House Speaker Newt Gingrich, had resigned instead, as did Gingrich's presumptive successor Bob Livingston, who confessed to an extramarital affair of his own. But Donald Trump was not removed in 2020, but he lost the squadrency and his party lost control of the Senate. Impeachments were designed as ways to remove corrupt federal officials. That function has mostly gone dormant and replaced by the operations of federal public integrity law that's enforced by the Department of Justice. Each month, the DOJ announces actions in some 2 dozen cases. The recent announcements include the convictions of a former mayor in the federal territory of Guam, who's basically wanted for extortion charges, and a former border officer on bribery charges. But what impeachment can do in the modern era is send a powerful signal to the public about the gravity of certain cases. When the House impeaches, it declares we believe we have exited normal politics, but we believe that we are dealing with a true emergency. It alleviates the president's alleged abuse or alleged abuse over the other congressional businesses. Impeachment empowers the House to force an issue onto the agenda of the slower-moving Senate. The impeachment changes the calendar of politics. The impeachment concentrates and clarifies issues, and the impeachment compels senators to take a public stand one way or the other. It's either convict or acquit. Because impeachment is such an extraordinarily act, it is also profoundly risky to its proponents. If done wrong, it will rebound upon the impeachers, as Clinton's impeached rebounded upon Gingrich and the House Republicans. In 1998, a substantial majority of the American people rejected the Republican impeachment case against Clinton. After the House approved articles of impeachment, Clinton's approval rating jumped to a new high of 73% in the CNN USA Today Gallup poll, and approval of Republicans tumbled to 31%. Even the fiercest partisans sense those risks. That's why impeachment does not happen promiscuously. Ronald Reagan was not impeached for the Iran-Contra thing, but George W. Bush was not impeached after Democrats won the House and Senate in 2006, and Barack Obama was not impeached despite the fervor of the Tea Party Republicans who took the House in 2010 and the Senate in 2014. The Trump impeachment, by contrast, was supported by a consistent and narrow majority. 70% of Americans condemned Trump's attempted extortion of Ukraine's government to aid his re-election. But Trump and his sycophantic inbred losers hoped and trusted that the impeachment would backfire in 2020, as it had in 1998. The pro-Trump pundits competently predicted that it would backfire, but those pro-Trump hopes were disappointed. The process began and ended with most Americans accepting that Trump had committed impeachable offenses and that he deserved to be removed from office for those offenses. But none of it sufficed to force the Senate's hand and end Trump's term prematurely, but it did frame the 2020 election as a referendum on Trump's wrongdoing above all, and debunked in advance the false claim that Trump lost re-election only because of his callous bungling of the COVID-19 pandemic. Trump's acquittal only postponed his political reckoning, and it did not avert it. Interestingly enough, this truth is perceived more clearly by the Trump sycophantic inbreeders than by Trump critics. Mark Hemingway, one of Trump's most unwavering dick writers in print media, wrote for the Real Clear Politics on February 4th. By the numbers, Joe Biden is president of the United States because he won the swing states of Arizona, Georgia, and Wisconsin by a combined total of some 43,000 votes, but he also owes his victory to the groundwork that's laid by Democrats and their media allies 1 year before during the first impeachment of Donald Trump over supposedly strings attached demand that the Ukrainian government investigate the alleged corruption involving Biden's son Hunter, which they already investigated that, and there was no wrongdoing on that part. In the aspect of Hunter. The first impeachment failed to oust Trump from office, but it helped secure the White House for Biden. Hemingway intended to complain that Trump suffered some unfairness by being held to account. Not really. But the reason for such complaints is precisely that those on the receiving end of a popular impeachment feel the crushing power of the remedy, even when the impeachment does not end in conviction of the accused squatter. In 2020, Trump could at least count on support from a majority of Republicans, but not this time in 2021. This time, only 36% of Republicans agree that Trump did nothing wrong, down from 56% of Republicans who said so last time. Yes, Trump can probably still expect a second acquittal in 2021, but Trump has three main post-squatteral goals, and the forthcoming trial will do severe and possibly lethal damage to all three. Trump's maximal post-squatteral goal is to position himself for a comeback run in 2024. Hopefully not. Failing that, Trump would like to demonstrate that squatter or not, he remains the dominant force within the Republican Party, and a leader surpassing all others. And he's not a leader anyway. But failing that, even that too, as just Trump would at a minimum like to prove that he remains a potent figure enough to frighten away the federal and state prosecutors from investigating his busyness for tax or bank fraud, because we know he committed those two. The second impeachment is in the House has already complicated these goals. The second trial in the Senate will complicate these goals even further. The political world is already witnessing demonstration of Trump's ebbing impunity within his own party. The Republicans voted in the House to impeach him, and 5 Republicans voted in the Senate to proceed with the trial, and 2/3 of the House caucus rejected Trump's urgings to remove the representative Liz Cheney from leadership for her vote to impeach him. Republicans, sadly, are not willing to unite to repudiate Trump, but they are not uniting to exonerate him either. In his legal briefs, Trump has argued that he was justified in his attempt to overturn the 2020 election, which he wasn't. Senate Republicans may want to acquit Trump on technicalities, but he would not consent to that. It's his way to implicate everybody around him in his worst behavior. Will he compel Senate Republicans to disassociate themselves from him, or will they succumb to the trap that's set by Pelosi and the House Democrats, who are trying to identify all Republicans with the bigoted conspirarizing of QAnon and the balanced edition of January 6th? The trial presents many hazards for both Trump and his party, and the odds are so good that they will emerge from the trial exposed and weakened. The framers of 1787 modeled the House of Representatives on the colonial assemblies that they knew so well. Within the Senate, however, they were not so sure what they were doing, but in some ways the Senate recalled the British House of Lords. In the 1780s, the House of Lords often functioned as a Supreme Court, the final arbiter of law. That was the inspiration for locating the power to try impeachment in the Senate. In other ways, the Senate derived from the 18th century understanding of how the Roman Senate had worked. That's where the U.S. Senate advise and consent functions come from. So much was uncertain about this new legislative invention, but the framers did seem to expect that the Senate would function somehow apart from above, and from and above ordinary politics. They got that wrong, though. Any hope that the Senate would try impeachment within the detachment and objectivity of of a court of law went out the window of a very long time ago. But impeachment is politics, and an impeachment trial is politics too. But politics will dissuade the necessary 17 Senate Republicans from voting for Trump. The politics will acquit him, but that's not the same thing as rendering the impeachment useless or the trial of a Trump victory. A criminal trial is binary. Guilty or not guilty, punishment or release, politics offers a much wider range of outcomes. The Senate does not have to vote to disqualify Trump to destroy his future political prospects, but it does not have to convict him on the impeachment charge to signal state and federal prosecutors that it's safe to proceed against private citizen Trump, or that the ex-squatter Trump has forfeited some large measure of the deference that's normally extended to former squatters. He won't be scotched either, but he will be marked, and that would not be justice, but it may be enough.